Welcome to The Secret Case. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most disturbing and macabre cases in American criminal history, Joseph Roy Metheny. A man who not only became a serial killer, but took atrocity to another level by using the remains of his victims to create hamburgers. Yes, you heard that right. But what drove this man to commit such brutal crimes? And what really happened to his victims? Join us on this chilling story. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our darker analyses. Before we continue, if you like to learn the most terrifying secrets of the criminal mind and discover the hidden details of the most horrible crimes, subscribe to The Secret Case and turn on notifications. We publish new cases every week that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Joseph Roy Metheny was born in 1955 in Baltimore, Maryland. From an early age, Metheny faced great hardships. His father died in a car accident when he was just a child, leaving his mother as the sole caregiver for Joseph and his 5 siblings. However, according to Metheny's own statements, his mother was not a supportive figure. According to him, she worked long hours and neglected her children, which left him at the mercy of the system and life on the streets. In his youth, Metheny was not the shy, withdrawn child you might expect from someone who would later become a serial killer. On the contrary, those who knew him describe him as a charismatic and seemingly normal teenager. However, after graduating from school, things quickly began to unravel. Metheny enlisted in the army, and although his mother claims he was never deployed to Vietnam, Joseph insisted to the day he died that he served in that country, suggesting a tendency toward mythomania or even a manufactured post-traumatic stress disorder to justify his crimes. After returning from the army, Metheny began working in various menial jobs. This is where his story begins to take a dark turn. He began using drugs regularly, especially heroin and crack, which led him to completely lose his way. His addiction led him deeper and deeper into a spiral of violence, while his personal life fell apart. Metheny also blamed his mother and his childhood for the situation he found himself in, although his mother always denied being negligent. The resentment he built up towards his surroundings became the fuel that would later lead him to become one of the most disturbing killers in modern history. Joseph Metheny did not just stop at the common violence that usually characterizes other criminals. His crimes were particularly gruesome. In 1995, he began his murderous spiral, attacking mainly homeless people and sex workers in Baltimore. Metheny lured these women to his home or captured them in the outskirts of the city. There, after killing them, he dismembered their bodies, and what he did next is what really terrified the public. According to Metheny's confessions, after dismembering his victims, he would save parts of the bodies and mix them with ground pork and beef. He would then sell these macabre concoctions as hamburgers at a street food stand that he himself managed. What is most disturbing is that many people in the city unwittingly consumed these burgers without suspecting the dark secret behind them. This detail made Metheny a symbol of horror in the public mind. Although we had heard stories of cannibalism and serial killers before, Metheny took atrocity to a different level, the collective consumption of his victims. Metheny's psychopathy lay not only in killing, but in ensuring that his community participated, however unwittingly, in his depravity. If you find this story incredibly disturbing and are interested in learning more about the most heinous crimes in history, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to The Secret Case. Here we explore the darkest cases of crime, revealing all the details that other media outlets don't dare to show. Joseph Metheny's downfall began in 1996, when he was arrested for the murder of one of his victims. During interrogations, Metheny did something few serial killers do. He freely confessed to his crimes, detailing each murder with stunning coldness. It was then that he revealed his macabre hamburger trick. Metheny's trial was brief but impactful. He faced multiple murder charges, and in 1997, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Although he was convicted of 2 confirmed murders, he himself admitted to killing more than 10 people, although many of those deaths could never be proven by authorities. During his trial, Metheny showed no remorse. In fact, his behavior was described as defiant and sadistic, and he even openly stated that he enjoyed each of his murders. This level of cold-bloodedness shocked even the most experienced in the field of criminology. Metheny's testimony showed that it was not just a matter of violent impulses. He meticulously planned his crimes and found satisfaction in the feeling of control they gave him. The case of Joseph Metheny is a clear example of how abuse and social circumstances can converge in an individual to produce monstrous behavior. Although Metheny was responsible for his actions, his history of childhood abuse, his drug addiction, and the marginal environment in which he lived for much of his life are elements that cannot be ignored when trying to understand his psychopathy. Criminology experts who have studied his case suggest that Metheny suffered from an antisocial personality disorder, characterized by a lack of empathy, a disregard for human life, and a need for domination and control. But what most intrigues investigators is how Metheny, despite being a seemingly ordinary man, was able to lead a double life for years, hiding his macabre secrets in plain sight. In this sense, Metheny shares characteristics with other serial killers who used their facade of normality to hide their crimes. The ability to appear just another person in society while committing heinous acts is a pattern we have seen in numerous serial killer cases. Metheny was no different. His ability to move between the criminal world and everyday society without raising suspicion is one of the most terrifying aspects of his case. What is most striking about his case is the coldness with which he described his crimes. For Metheny, there was no remorse. Each victim was simply a means to satisfy his dark impulses and his lust for power. If you're interested in discovering more chilling stories like Joseph Metheny's, don't forget to subscribe to The Secret Case and turn on the notification bell. We're always exploring the darkest crime cases and bringing you all the uncensored details. So, what are you waiting for? Join our community and discover the darker side of the criminal mind. Joseph Roy Metheny died in prison in 2017, leaving behind a trail of horror that still resonates in the collective memory. His case is one of the most macabre in criminal history, not only for the number of victims, but for the grotesque fate that befell their bodies. Metheny is a reminder that evil can be where we least expect it, and that sometimes, the most terrifying thing is not just death, but what happens afterward. The Metheny case leaves us with many questions. How many more victims could he have had? To what extent did his environment influence his descent into madness? While these questions remain unanswered, the fact remains that Metheny left a dark mark on the history of America's most heinous crimes. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Secret Case. Remember, if you want more content like this, subscribe and don't forget to share this video with those who are interested in mystery and true crime. See you in the next episode, where we will unravel another disturbing case that defies human understanding.